have one. So we had a small grant from Homebridge Foundation, and they renovated next door. Because when I first got here, we didn't even have the bathroom and so we were all in the porta potties. And I was the first staff person. And since then, we expanded to where we are. We're over 70 employees now. We got our first $4 million came from one of our former board members, state representative. I think it was Darcy O'Brien.
Okay. Okay, I see how this is developing.
All right, everybody, we're going to get started very, very soon. I want to do a quick rundown of what to expect. We'll start with the speaking program here. It'll get started, as I said, really soon. After that, the governor will move to the desk, and we'll invite whoever wants to join her behind her for a picture. And then we'll close by a photo line with the governor. She's going to stand right there, and you're going to stand in line if you would like the photo. We'll do it for 10 minutes, first come, first serve. And then I'll ask you to clear the room. Sound good for everybody? All right.
We're not charging for the photos unless you want to contribute to Justin. Wait, hold up, you're
Go
right.
ahead.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm honored to be here with our local community partners, our elected officials, local leaders, to commemorate the signing of House Bill 3644. And I really just want to emphasize and start off with the gratitude I feel for the folks who have worked so hard to bring this legislation to life and what it will mean for the future in terms of what we can do in this state to help our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness. I particularly want to thank my colleague, Representative Pam Marsh. Where's Pam? Thank you, Pam. Oh, behind me? Yes, Pam. You know, to have a visionary legislator who says we need to sit down and figure these things out together really makes a world of difference. And then to put together a fantastic group of committed partners with the Sustainable Shelter Work Group who met a lot and had really good conversations, both a lot of those meetings were in person, which takes a lot of commitment, I think, these days. So I want to thank them for that work. That work is reflected in this bill. I want to thank Dr. Vernon Baker and the staff here at Just Compassion for sharing the space with us. I was here for the grand opening, and I think this is a tremendously important model about how we can help our neighbors, and they're doing wonderful work, so thank you for the work you do every day. Very much appreciate it. You know, when I came into office in 2023, there were over 20,000 Oregonians experiencing unsheltered homelessness. It was clear that we had a humanitarian and economic crisis on our hands here in the state, and we had to move quickly and boldly to try to do what we could to stem the crisis. I declared a statewide emergency on my first day in office, and with the Oregon legislature's partnership and the coordination and dedication of our local partners, the folks on the ground who are doing the work, we created a new statewide shelter system with a framework of regional coordination. That's what we stood up quickly and effectively in 2023. And that level of funding and the regional infrastructure that we set up was unique. It allowed our diverse communities from around the state to deliver services to their neighbors in a way that works for them. It helped create this life-changing shelter and the resource center that we have here today. And it's just one shining example of the work Oregonians across the state have done. Critically, my emergency order set clear, deliverable goals. It's not enough to say we want to do something, we need to know where we're going. It included regional plans designed to ensure that communities could hit their goals. And that's how we know what is working, and we know where it is working. And it is working. Together, all of us working together have blunted the humanitarian crisis on our doorsteps. It is not over. We are not done, but we are getting ahead and helping our neighbors in new ways that I think we can all be proud of. Across the state, we are on track to support over 4,800 new shelter beds, rehouse 3,300 households, and prevent another 24,000 households from experiencing homelessness in the first place. That is thousands of Oregonians who know where they are sleeping tonight. And that's because of the hard work of everyone who has brought this bill forward. But let's remember, when we talk about those numbers, it means real people, Oregonians who are struggling or suffering or have had a crisis in their life. And by providing a warm place to call home, or at that shelter, that transition spot, we are building a more prosperous and healthier state here in Oregon. And I want that for every Oregonian. No one should be having to experience any level of homelessness in our state. So here at Just Compassion, the facilities and staff support 60 people right now who have a safe, warm shelter, or cool shelter, since it's warm outside. The people here are getting a chance to have that start in a journey of stability that we need to support in a variety of ways. It doesn't end here. This is the start of that journey, and we all need to continue it. The urgency that's in front of us remains. I will never be satisfied. I'm always asking what's next, where we go next, what we can do more of. But it is important to stop and say what we have accomplished, and that is why we're here today. This emergency that's facing our state will be with us for a while. So we need to know the direction we're headed, how we make it sustainable, and we need to evaluate if what we're doing is working and help the programs that we all have continue to evaluate and move and improve. We also need to get out of the pattern of one-time funds. The biggest debate in the session around this bill was, how long can we have this resource? How long do we need to be doing this? And I would say we need to be sustainable, we need to be committed, because we need to send a message to the folks who need help and to the folks who are providing the help that we are with you in this fight, and that's what this bill does. And that's why the Sustainable Shelter Work Group was so important, because they looked at it and said, this is how we need to get sustainable. This is how we need to define what we're doing as a state and how we're all working together. So House Bill 3644, as I've said, is the product of those recommendations. This bill not only codifies and explains and provides the framework for the work we're doing across the state and communities across the state, but it also funds them for the next 2 years. The $204 million that went along with this bill was a commitment by the Oregon legislature to keep the shelters that we helped stand up under my emergency order, keep them open, keep them functioning, keep helping people move into stability and into housing on a permanent fashion. So even though we have challenges in terms of what we can continue to do here, we are unrelenting in our focus. We will be flexible, we will keep pushing, we will keep saying, how can we do this better? And we're gonna keep helping people go from experiencing homelessness into shelter, into permanent housing, because that's what we need to do to have the healthier, safer Oregon and the type of state we want to have for every person who is here. So I just really appreciate everyone who's here today. It's an honor to work with you, to be an ally with all of you, and I'm glad you're here to celebrate the signing of 3644. So thank you very much. And the next person to speak is Representative Pam Marsh, who's been serving the fine residents of Southern Oregon for quite a while and a true champion for housing and homelessness services in our state. Representative Marsh.
Good morning. This is really a morning and a place full of gratitude. The governor was generous in her gratitude toward our sustainable shelter work group, and she should be. We had an incredible group of people, many of whom are here today to celebrate with us. But I want to extend my gratitude first thing to the governor, who for many years, before you even became governor, has been a champion of issues around homelessness and housing, and whose work and passion for this is really the reason that we are here today. So thank you. You know, this work really began a year ago when I sat around and looked at what the state and local communities and nonprofits had accomplished all together and realized that it was pretty awesome. Really starting in 2020, we put together a shelter system through the development of Project Turnkey, through navigation centers, and then through the governor's emergency order that meant that we had shelter beds in many parts of the state that had never been able to even contemplate being able to provide those services. But in truth, we'd done that a little opportunistically. When we'd had money from different sources, we'd invested it, sometimes in different kinds of services. We had different expectations for different programs about what outcomes and data should be collected. And our local government partners were very grateful to us, but had no idea what to expect of the state in the future. So I sat down with Matt Scheibold, who I want to really thank for his partnership from the governor's staff, and we said, we need to make this all make sense. We need a structure so that when we are putting money into shelter, people know what to expect. And that is what we did through the work group. We accumulated a group of about 25 to 30 people from across the state, shelter providers, people from community action agencies, local governments, mayors, and we also added to that group staff from the Oregon Housing and Community Services Department who are actually doing this work on a daily basis. And it was that connection between staff and people who are out there on the ground that helped us understand what we need to have in a state shelter framework and the kind of information that would be useful to people who are actually doing that on the ground. So that work was synthesized. Much of it is in 3644. Some of it is in changes to practices that we'll see from OHCS. But what we've done in this bill, which I'm immensely proud of, is we have created a shelter framework so that whatever dollars we are able to put into shelter will be distributed fairly, efficiently, and transparently, and we'll be able to continue being good and dependable partners to the communities on the ground that are really on the front lines of this. So very grateful to be able to celebrate this today, very grateful to all the people who have had a part in this, and especially grateful to our leadership.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is an historic moment in many ways. The passage and signing of House Bill 3644 will change the landscape of social services, homeless services in Oregon for the generation going ahead. I'm really grateful to be here today, grateful for Governor Kotek's not only leadership in the emergency order and all the thousands of people that we've housed and sheltered over the last couple of years, but her time as Speaker of the House in the Oregon legislature, where she demonstrated this passionate commitment in terms of leadership for the housing and sheltering issue for many, many years. I think a lot of us fail to realize that just as little as 10 years ago, there was next to no state investment in sheltering across the state. There were a few $1 million a year. The state did not have good transparency in terms of the shelters that were operating in Oregon, in terms of what they were producing, the kinds of policies and procedures that they were following. We didn't really have good information to be able to design programs and systems, so we were really in a kind of painful place. That began to change a couple of years ago when we had the emergency orders, massive investments across the state, not only in the emergency order itself, but in Project Turnkey, the navigation centers, all which were a product of the leadership that you see here behind you. And we began for the first time to really sort of change the question from how do we hold the line to how can we focus on an outcomes-based system that begins to turn the tide and reduce the number of homeless people in Oregon, especially the unsheltered population in Oregon in the days ahead. And I really believe with the passage of this bill, we have a fighting chance now to begin to reduce the overall homeless population in Oregon for the first time, really in more than a generation. People forget, too, that as little as 3 years ago, Oregon had one of the worst unsheltered homeless rates in America. And part of the reason for that was that we just were not investing in state shelters that had outcomes attached to them, especially low barrier shelters. A lot of shelters around the state were higher barrier models that had sobriety requirements. You couldn't bring your pet, you couldn't bring your partner. They were just unsuited in some ways, despite the good work they were doing, unsuited in some ways to tackle the scale and the scope of the problem that was in front of us. So I'm very grateful to the governor, who has made this one of her major priorities in her administration. And in addition to the time that she spent in the legislature, I'm very grateful for Rep. Marsh, who has chaired the House Housing Committee and has fought and fought and fought to bring justice and dignity to people across the state who are in suffering and in need. Grateful to my friend and colleague, the Vice Chair, Rep. Tom Anderson, who's here today. Grateful to the members of the statewide shelter support work group that we put together last year that provided many of the recommendations that were brought forward as part of House Bill 3644. And grateful for all of the folks that I've met over the years who were homeless and really just told me at one point in time that they just needed a little bit more help, a little bit better system, a little bit more opportunity, and they would find their way out of homelessness. I'll just close by saying that, you know, I kind of came up in the homeless services system from more of the housing side. Shelter was, in a lot of ways, back then, didn't really seem like it was going to be a major part of the equation. Just before the major ice storm that we had in 2021 in Salem, one of my outreach workers ran across a fellow by the name of Brian, and she sent me a picture of his foot. And his foot was, I'll spare everybody the details, but it was horrific when I saw the picture. And I wrote back and I said, he has to go to the hospital right now. I don't care what he says, get him back to the hospital. And she said, well, he just came from the hospital. He was just released. He won't go back today, but he'll go tomorrow. But he wants a motel room for the night because there weren't any space at the shelters. And he wants a chocolate milkshake from McDonald's. And I said, all right, well, that's an easy thing to do. So we got him a motel room for the night. We got him a chocolate milkshake. And when the outreach worker went to pick him up the next day, he was deceased, face down on the bed. And at that moment, it kind of broke my heart. And if you do this work long enough, your heart's repeatedly broken and also uplifted by the joy that we have from the successes. And it just sort of dawned on me at that time that, you know, I needed to do everything in my capacity to make sure that there were shelter opportunities across the state. And thankfully, we have elected leadership here who have prioritized this issue so that Oregonians in need do not need to suffer and die in very inhumane conditions. So thank you.
I would just like to say hello to everyone for coming. It's great to see you all here. And it's been said before, but I truly want to thank Governor Kotek, Representative Marsh, and Mr. Jones for being here on the day. This is a very momentous occasion in all things houselessness and shelter services because we try to do all that we can to make a difference in the lives of those individuals that we come in contact with on a daily basis. But we recognize with all of the cuts and things that are taking place, the resources that we have are dwindling and they're getting less and less. But it's situations like this that provide hope for what we can do moving forward. When I was thinking about, when we first got the word that Governor Kotek wanted to come back to Just Compassion to do this, then to sign this bill, we felt very grateful and appreciative that she thought of us so that she can come back here and have that take place. And with that being said, it's really important that we understand that this is a collective effort, a very collective effort. And what Governor Kotek has done to show her commitment, her dedication, and even her compassion and passion for things that are pertaining to those who are outside, who are houseless, who are needing to be housed is tremendous because you don't see that on a regular basis. So we're very thankful and appreciative to all the partners that we're working together with. We recognize that this bill is going to do great things, but it's not the end all. And we're going to need continued partnership and collaboration with all our community partners. I just wanted to just give a shout out to the City of Tigard, Washington County, and SHS, and all of our partners who have made what you see here at Just Compassion possible and are committed to us moving forward in all the things that we want to do for our guests and for those who are in need of services. So as we prepare for this momentous occasion by the signing of this bill, this is great, but we haven't climbed to the top of the mountain. We're still on our way up. And as we continue to ascend to the top, we're going to need additional partnerships and other collaborations. So I don't want to take up much more time, but I just want to thank all the staff here at Just Compassion, our board, and all those who trusted in me and given me an opportunity to lead this organization to the place that we are today. But we definitely want to be not just good stewards, but great stewards of the resources that we're provided so that we can stretch the resources and opportunities for those individuals who are in tremendous need for the things that we're trying to offer. But with everyone's help, we can make that happen. You know, if it's just one person coming in at a time, that's one less person that's out there in the cold. And one of the things that we heard through Metro's report was that for every 10 persons that are housed, another 15 people are going unhoused. So we see that we have some work to do to mitigate and to eliminate that fluctuation of people going out versus those coming in. But this is a tremendous start to making sure that we get to where we want to go, and you all could be a part of that process. So I just want to once again, thank everyone for coming, and this is a great day.
All right, let's sign a bill, everyone. Come on up. Come on up. All get close like you like each other. There we go.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, 3 layers, I think, is what we need. We have 2 right now. How do you roll the back? Closer in and less breathing. We're going to take a photo with our fancy big camera, and just our fancy big camera, but we will send it to every single one of your inboxes. Agreed? Okay. All right.